This is the video of my wooden bag that I made from offcut oak scraps from a local sawmill. It was a big chunk of oak beam and I ripped it down the centre to create two equal planks of oak. I then sandwiched in between this together. Unfortunately I did this all off camera before I had my GoPro, so sorry about that. But this is just me putting the fabric on. I used canvas fabric, which I bought online, with a stiff, which I iron-on stiffener in between. This meant that it didn't sag when flapped over in between the 2 points. I did this because I didn't want it to sag in between, and I wanted it to look good. So at first we tried to eyeball the kind of shape that I wanted, but it wasn't quite working. So I ended up making a paper template, as I do with most things, for the shape that I wanted, and then taking that onto the fabric and drawing around it. I then sewed up the edge with just a single stitch, as it was going to be reversed like you'd do when making a pillow or something similar. So I then reversed it, and my tutor advised me to cut triangles out to get rid of some of the weight in the material, which meant that it would flex nicer and act more like what I wanted it to. I originally wanted to use leather, as it's a beautiful material to use, but again the cost of it, I couldn't justify it, and I thought this would achieve a similar aesthetic, and I was pleased with the outcome. I'm not too happy with the colour of it, but I've used it now and it's been around the studio for a bit, and it's got a bit dirty and looks a bit worn, and it's much nicer now. So instead of making a wooden bottom, I still use fabric for the bottom. I did a similar process for this, just folded a square and ironed a return over so it wouldn't fray anymore. I then just drilled holes and drove some screws into it, countersunk screws into it. These fit really flush because they're countersunk, and the fabric takes up most of the countersunk head. I want to exchange these for nicer brass screws in the future, but at the time, in the workshop, the workshop didn't have any. So I then just tacked the back on with 2 screws, and then set about marking my middle and the next, and then again the middle 2 of those. I just pilot drilled them first and then drove in screws, which I made sure that they were the right length and wouldn't poke through the other side. This is on, it fitted, just the test thing. I like how it looks. It kind of looks a bit like a post box, but the kind of thing I was going for was a French plumber's toolbox, which is what I got inspired by. I then wanted to make the top magnetic flap, the top flap magnetic, so it would shut nicely. I put a piece of steel glued into the top of the flap, which was lucky because I could still access it, and then got 2 rare earth magnets and lined them up and draw them and mark them. And this is me just setting it up on the drill press. I wanted them to be flush with the top of the oak, so I used the drill press so they're the same depth each time, and mark them like that. If I was going to do it again, I'd do this before and drill from the other side so that they would magnetise through the wood. I think this would look cool and would be interesting to work out. I went up in sizes in the drill because I didn't want it to make any splits. I just simply pressed the magnets in with a bit of glue, just using a clamp. This was the simplest way I could think of doing it without damage to the wood. So I assembled it. The strap is an old belt of mine that I had. I just drilled 2 holes in it and in the ends and strapped it up, and then I reassembled the back.